everybody, and welcome to the instant post-match reaction where Rangers have been defeated again in the Champions League 3-0 away in Naples. Today, to discuss it, am I shocked at that result, given that Ross is in the podcast with me? Absolutely not. But how are you after that, Ross?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, to be honest, mate. I didn't really expect much tonight, so I didn't expect myself to be too down, and I'm not. So yeah, it is what it is right now with Rangers, isn't it? We're just getting through at this point.
Yeah, and Reece, it's been a wee while since I've been on a pod with you. How are you doing after that as well?
All right, relatively calm compared to what you would expect, but I think the last pod we were on together, Kerr, I think was USG away.
Yeah.
So just to show you like the perspective we had back then to even be here. And we've got three quarter-final teams in a group stage. It's nothing less than we expected.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. But look, as I always say, we are a post-match reaction pod, so we'll get straight into the bones of it. Ross, so I'll start with you in terms of the lineup. We had McGregor in goals, Tav at right back, Davies and King with Ridvan coming in on the left, which I think surprised a few. Sands and Lundstrom in the kind of sitting midfield roles, and Tillman supporting Morelos, and Wright and Kent out on the wings. Initially, I'd just like to get your thoughts on Sands potentially getting shifted into the central midfield position. I know that's something that's been talked about in the group. One person in particular, Gav's mentioned it a few times. How did you feel, or what did you feel that Gio's thinking was in terms of playing him in this position tonight?
Yeah, I think James Sands was probably taking on that kind of Ryan Jack role that we see in Europe alongside Lundstrom tonight. I think that was probably the thinking there, and I'm with Gavin from the group. I've wanted to see this for a while, that Lundstrom and Sands pairing, because I think Sands can do a lot of what Lundstrom can't really, in terms of being more comfortable receiving the ball was back to goal and things like that in position. So I think it made sense, that addition of Sands. As for Ridvan, yeah, I was a wee bit surprised by it, but once I'd really thought about Van Bronckhorst's comments yesterday in the press conference where he said he was going to shake things up, I was struggling to see where he was going to shake things up because of the depth. So the left back, position was maybe one of them because of Ridvan. So yeah, all in all, listen, I wasn't too surprised with the lineup. I thought it was slightly encouraging because it looked like we were being slightly brave, but listen, it was, yeah, I didn't really know what to expect tonight. It was a bit of a weird one coming into the game.
Yeah, it was. It's not often you often hear supporters saying, I'd take a forfeit just now." But Reece, again, before we get into the game itself, what was your thoughts in the lineup, in particular Ridvan starting on that left hand side? I know somebody who I've been asking for, not because I think Barisic has been playing poorly. I just think he offers us something different going forward.
I honestly haven't seen enough of Ridvan to like judge whether or not he's any better or worse than Barisic. I just want to see why we paid 5.5 million for a left back who's evidently not going to be a game changer. But the fact that he's not even getting a game, and John Bennett saying that it's all right, we'll judge him after throughout his 5 year contract. It's all well and good, mate. But when the team's performing as bad as it is, like, you've got to start changing something. And I'm glad he did change it, in fairness, but for me, it is getting a bit desperate now. I think he's maybe just went, do you know what, we're not expected to get in for this game. If we're going to start giving him game time, it might as well be here. But five at the back, so uninspiring. Like, I don't think you can ever say, as much as I respect Ross's point of view about that, I don't think you can ever say somebody's being brave playing five at the back.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I would maybe argue that it was a four rather than a five with the two sitting midfielders. But yeah, we'll come on to that later. My final point about Ridvan, though, in terms of that, was I was going to say, and somebody's just mentioned it in the comments here. AG says that Ridvan's got more Champions League experience or more recent Champions League experience than pretty much anybody in our squad. I think that maybe showed a wee bit tonight. What did you think about that, Reece?
I thought he was good in glimpses. He looked kind of promising. He looks like, I suppose, well, we've seen him in the YouTube highlights. He's got one touch passing. He's the style of football that I would like to see Rangers play. And I think it was emblematic under Gerrard. Was you would get it out wide to a fullback. You'd have a 1-2 with a centre mid who would give it back to the fullback, and then it goes down the wing and you've got an overlapping run. I think he's got more chances of doing that than Barisic. He's got a better tendency to do it, and it was pleasing to see, especially against such a high level opposition. But I don't know, he's got to start for me now. He's got to get a consistent run of games. You can't expect him to come in and hit the ground running straight away.
Yeah. Look, Ross, we'll get into the actual play itself. I feel like I've written this in a few times, this sort of Champions League, where I felt the first 10 minutes were actually okay-ish. I think we were kind of easing ourselves into the game. And then, as if by magic, 10 minutes, 30 seconds. As if the manager said, hang on for the first 10 minutes, 30 seconds later, it's absolutely scunner. It's a really good challenge initially out wide from Kent. There's a lot of criticism for Tillman here in terms of maybe not getting back, but for me, there's not an awful lot that can be done about this goal. Davies maybe loses his man a wee bit, but it's a fantastic ball in behind him, and it's a really good finish by Simeone.
Yeah, I think when you first watch it and you see how much space Simeone has when he receives the ball, you're always tempted to maybe look at your own side there and think defensively you could have done a wee bit better. Maybe King and Davies could have communicated a wee bit better because there's no one behind King, I believe. I think it's just Simeone they're having to deal with. But I think I'm with you on this one. And again, probably just shows the quality of where we are right now, the opposition we're up against. It's a great ball. It's not really a cross, it's a pass. Let's be honest, he's not swung that in hoping for the best. He's played that right through, and he's taken it on the half volley. Simeone, it's a great finish. So, yeah, I'd love to come on here and criticise Rangers and say they should have done better there. Maybe we could have been a bit better to close the man down in possession. And I take the point about Tillman because we can get onto it later on. I'm not thrilled about Tillman going forward. I've not been thrilled about him the last couple of months, to be honest with you. But I think in these situations, you just have to hold your hands up. And it just shows you in the Champions League that it doesn't matter if you start well. Like, they only need, a tiny bit of space to appear and they'll punish you. We've seen that in every single one of these games. God, you can see by the goal difference, it doesn't take these teams a lot to carve you open and punish you. So, yeah, listen, could we have done things a wee bit better there? Maybe, but we're up against quality opposition here. They're on their record winning run lately. So I'm not surprised by the pass. It's a great goal from their perspective.
Yeah, and Reece, unfortunately, the sort of next action point to come on to is in 16 minutes. Sorry, God, in my head I thought it must have been further away than than 6 minutes from the previous goal. But I've not really written a lot here for this. I've just written in very good cross header goal. I think a lot of us were fearing the worst at this point, Reece.
Yeah, definitely. I think when it goes two in such quick succession, then you start going, oh, no, it's going to be a cricket score. And quite literally, but when we got to halfway, 30 minutes in rather, I thought, right, we're on course for 6. Would I take 6? I don't know. But Napoli can fly out of blocks. As Ross says, it's fine margins at this level. It takes a half chance to punish you. And, the quality of Napoli really showed the night. But I thought, again, a bit like the home leg, we showed wee spells of being able to compete with them, and there seemed to be, for some players more than others, some kind of commitment and efforts going in. So that was kind of relatively pleasing. By quick fire goals in succession, it was as if as soon as the first one went in, we had dropped the heads, but glad to say we kind of held out for a bit after that.
Yeah, and I'll stick with you on this, Reece. I've seen a couple of comments come out, or maybe one comment sort of saying Davies maybe at fault for both of these goals. I'm not sure I agree with that myself, but
No.
it was interesting that he did pick up a yellow card quite early on. I think it was around 7-8 minutes for a deserved yellow card. Can't have any arguments against it. Do you think that affected the way he played tonight, or do you agree with some of the criticism that he's coming in for tonight, Reece?
I don't think it affected them as such. I think it affects everyone, whether you get an early yellow card or not. Like, regardless, you're going to have that wee mental block, and quite rightly so. You would rather that than somebody going in rash and ending up with a second yellow. But I thought Davies actually got pass marks for me tonight. I thought Davies done well. He looked composed on the ball. Evidently, we've seen that he had been kind of pinpointed as the guy who was going to play that long diag for the kickoff. At one point that you would usually see Goldson playing, it actually looked like we were packing the right hand side, laid it off Davies and he played it. But I think defensively it looked pretty sound. There was a few clearances and interceptions I was seeing that it looked like he was the one kind of stepping up to the mark, especially when you've got somebody as inexperienced as King at the back. And I thought he actually played all right. And like Ross said, the first goal, it's a kind of De Bruyne style pass cross right through the back. You're not really getting on it, and it was well executed.
Yeah, it's a triangle through ball in the PlayStation type, isn't it? But look, the next point in my notes here at 22 minutes. This might be one of the earliest I've written down the whole season. Is what are the tactics? But we'll come on to that later, Ross. I said I'll jump forward to around about the sort of 35 minute mark. I actually thought Rangers had a wee spell in here, a couple of half chances. A corner that was won, and there was a Tillman chance in there as well, and an Alfredo chance. What did you think about that wee sort of spell? And did you ever think we really troubled Napoli in there, Ross?
If I'm honest, no, not really. I think Napoli were quite comfortable. I think if we're honest about it, I think Napoli took their foot off the gas a wee bit after the second goal. They were rotating a few players in tonight from their squad, and it did become a bit of a training exercise. I felt for long periods of that game. But listen, you got to give the team a wee bit of credit. It's not easy to go down, by 2 goals and keeping the game like that, especially against this opposition. So we'll give the team some credit there. Yeah, I thought we played all right in that spell. I thought you maybe seen a wee bit of Tillman's kind of technical ability in there. And if I'm thinking of this correctly, is that maybe the chance that Morelos has through 1-on-1 when it's Ostergaard gets the block on it? I think I'm thinking of the right chance, yeah. Which I think Kevin Thompson said in commentary that if that was a fit and fire Morelos, he might have scored there. I don't think he would have scored there. I mean, Morelos just doesn't score 1-on-1, does he? I think we all know that. His composure is not great in those situations. So yeah, listen. We probably done well to recover at that stage of the game, but I don't think that Napoli were under any real pressure from us in that first half. I think we were just looking to get to half time and to see it through and maybe make some changes.
Yeah, and just before we get to half time, I'll come to you in this one, Reese. There was a Tillman chance. It was cut back from he cuts it back from the edge of the 18-yard box and sort of drives in, and it's sort of sclaffed at the keeper, so to speak. Had somebody in the group who described Tillman as an empty jersey. What's your thoughts on that, and how do you feel Tillman in particular played tonight?
This season's Koulibaly, isn't he? He's one of them. Like, he came on loan with the option, and we were all going, "Oh, what a player! He looks top class, head and shoulders above him." That, and to then he's just no done it. I actually said on Saturday against Livingston, if he couldn't jump, he wouldn't be a footballer. But he was emblematic of that again today. You do get some players right enough who don't look interested. They don't look like they're putting effort in, but when they need to, they do. Like Joe Aribo, I don't think was particularly industrious. I don't think he was constantly grafting and pressing people and stuff, but when he needed to, he done it. And Tillman he leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah, is that just Reese that's frozen? I thought that was me that's frozen there.
Yeah, can I just jump in Tillman just when we're talking about him, because I kind of do need to get this off my chest with him. I've been so frustrated with Tillman for a couple of months now, and the reason why I get frustrated with him is, and I could understand it to begin with, he kind of plays the first team game like it's a youth game. Like he tries the kind of fancy flicks and he holds onto the ball for maybe too long sometimes, and maybe doesn't play a pass when he should, and doesn't win a foul when he should. And I'm kind of at that point now where I feel that he's had enough time to bed in to this club and what it means. And I'm not just saying that from a Rangers perspective of you've got to give everything. Listen, every fan expects every player to give everything for their club, right? But he's just, that style he's got, that kind of lackadaisical style. I don't think any of the top players in the world have that style anymore. Like you don't get the kind of Ronaldinhos anymore that just kind of walk about the pitch and don't do anything.
The last one I can think of.
Yeah. You don't you can have all the technical ability in the world, but see, if you don't graft, you will not go to the top. Like, it's just, it won't happen for him. And I think he does have the technical ability, honestly, to play at a higher level than Scottish football. What 100%, he's shown that. But it just, his style sometimes just doesn't fit with us. You know, it is very, he slows the play right down sometimes, and he wants to take an extra touch. And seeing a game like that tonight, when we win possession, it's really important to try and move the ball quickly and try and exploit the space. And he's just slowing the game down, and he's taking a touch, and he's trying flicks around the corners, he's losing the ball. It's something that I think Van Bronckhorst spoke about in his press conferences. He said that he feels that Tillman's getting better at that now, and he can feel the defensive side coming. It needs to come quicker. You know, it needs to, there's supposedly the buy option for Tillman, 6 million. Do not pay that buy option.
No.
He's not. He's a great player, and I'm sure he'll have a fantastic career. But that 6 million for us isn't worth it. We can do more with that money. So as it stands right now, yeah, he needs to change something for me. It just that technical ability isn't enough. Like, he won't thrive for us. That's not enough.
Yeah, I largely agree to what you're saying there. I understand I know that Gio's touched on, you know, his defensive responsibilities in the past, but I'm just not seeing that translate in the pitch at times. For me, where the perfect example of where Tillman should be pressing was see the PSV game where we got the goal. Was that is his game, pressing high forward. That's where he should be. But look, the next action point here at half-time came and went. Scott Wright was subbed off for Fashion Sakala, which I'm sure will surprise nobody, that I was quite happy to see. I don't know, I think it's stunned again to see Scott Wright starting. It just screams that Gio does not know who our best winger is. I think it's just a case of seeing what sticks and seeing what happens. But because for me, Scott Wright epitomises everything that's wrong with us at the moment in terms of positioning, sloppy passing, and overall work rate. Got the first 20 minutes here, Reese. There was nothing really of note. I just felt there was a bit of huffing and puffing between Napoli and Rangers. Maybe Napoli taking the foot off the gas a wee bit here, but the sort of first chance for Rangers was on 62 minutes. It was a deep corner from Tav. Davies headed it, and Morelos has quite an acrobatic attempt at goal. What was your thoughts, Reese, on that? The kind of from half time up until about 62 minutes and this chance itself.
It was boring. It's a bit like Napoli just knew it's a dead rubber. They're thinking, that's right, we're 2-0 up, we're through, we're probably top in the group, and they don't show any signs of coming back. So we'll be all right. We'll just slow it down a bit, take the foot off the gas, prepare for the weekend. It sort of looked a bit like that. And what kind of troubled me was the fact that, remembering at the weekend there, or possibly the week before, Bologna ran them really close. Bologna lost 3-2 to them. Mm-hmm. But they had taken the lead a couple of times, and it screamed out to me that that's what we should be blueprinting and going off. But we just seemed not effortless, but as much as we tried, we will never score them. We will never win. We never looked like the better team. We just looked like Ross says, a bit of a training exercise that they maybe felt a bit sorry for us. And we're just like, nah, we'll actually not try all that much, lads. But just as you were saying, Kyle, about the sub with Sakala coming on for right and not knowing your best winger, you can say that about left back, you can say it about centre back and centre mid. But like, you know, as much as best team, many positions have we seen Sands in, seen Lundstrom have to drop back sometimes, you've seen Davis come in domestically. It's a bit, it's too fluid for me at the minute. It's too fleeting. There's no mainstays in that team, and I know injuries are a big part of it, but even when one goes, you should know who's next in line to go in, and it doesn't really seem that way anywhere on the pitch for me at the minute.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe that was something we became accustomed to under the Gerrard era, was you knew who was playing where, apart from maybe Aribo. That's the only exception to that rule. But if somebody got injured or was out, you know who was coming in and playing. And I'm going to go back to your point there about the Bologna game. I'm just taken from that, Reece, that you're saying that we should have signed Lewis Ferguson.
Oh, well, I think I had a few opinions on him when he was at Aberdeen, and saying I didn't want him in that, but compared to Tillman, and they're like, but I just had hoped that we would bring in somebody better, and we've just no. So I need to go on record and take that back. I would take him. Somebody's got to phone him and be like, right, mate, holiday's over. You're going for like Italian pizza to Blue Lagoon again. Get back.
Kyle, I think it might have been one of my first podcasts. I was saying we should have signed Lewis Ferguson. So I'd like to take a wee bit of credit for that one. No, I'm just joking. But listen, these things happen. Players can move on, and you always think that, oh, we should have grabbed him. Maybe the fee was just too much that we were willing to pay. That's usually the case when it comes to our recruitment, isn't it? It's so you see the fee that these guys move on for, and you go, all right, I can understand why we've not went for them now. So, yeah, listen, these things happen.
I just want to clarify, as good as Lewis Ferguson's goal was against Napoli, I absolutely don't want to see him anywhere on this team, but that's for another pod. Look, the next chance for Rangers here, I'm almost making this sound positive for Rangers here, was Kent finds Yilmaz. I thought this was a really, really fantastic ball by Yilmaz across the front of the goal, Ross. It's an absolute sitter for Morelos, isn't it? It should be 2-1 at this point.
Yeah, he's got to score. He's got to score. There's just no excuses for this one. I mean, I can understand why Morelos has missed that chance in the first half and he's 1-on-1, because I'm never confident with Morelos in that situation. He sometimes takes too long, doesn't get a clean strike of the ball, and I think you've seen that there. He's got to score here. I mean, just get your foot through the ball. He's just a lack of concentration, and yeah, it's an absolute sitter. And I didn't feel a lot of emotion in that game, and probably a lot of Rangers fans agree with me in that. It's difficult to get to buy too much into the game when you're going in with that negative mindset and then you're 2 goals down. It's like you restrict yourself from getting into the game so much. But I was really gutted when we missed that, just because it was such a nice goal. Like, we'd played out from the back. I think Sands had played a wee reverse ball into midfield. Morelos had sprayed it out wide to Kent. He faces a man up 1v1. He plays in Ridvan and he smashes the ball across the box. It would have been a really good goal, honestly, in a game that, listen, I don't think we were great, but it would have been a real highlight for us. It would have been able the team could have maybe taken that out of the game and really used that as confidence going forward, because it was a real example of how good we can play, and we do have some quality in this team. So yeah, that was a sore one. That would have been a great goal. That would have been a really good goal to look back on. So yeah, difficult, and yeah, Morelos has got to score. There's no surprise he was taken off straight after it, to be honest with you. I'm not surprised Van Bronckhorst went, right, that's him, he's done, get him off.
Yeah, and look, Ross, I'll stick with you with this one, because that is my next point. Obviously, Morelos came off along with Tillman, who we've criticised a wee bit earlier on, and Cholak and Arfield come on as their replacements. I think sensible subs, I think it's fair to say at this point, but you did mention something in the chat about you noticed that this kind of resulted in Lundstrom playing a wee bit further forward, and you were encouraged by this. Is this something that you think that we should be doing more going forward, Ross?
Yeah, definitely. I think I don't want to go too off of this game, but it was just a point I kind of thought about when I was writing that in the chat earlier. We played against Livingston at the weekend, and it looked like we were playing Lundstrom in that deep role, and we were playing Stephen Davis higher. And I just think that goes against the 2 types of player you have there. And I was screaming for us to change that and move Lundstrom 1 forward and play Davis in that 6 role that we've seen him he was so good under Gerrard. And I think tonight we were kind of forced into seeing that, because I don't think I just don't think that's the type of player he is. He would have found that really difficult at this level, playing further forward. And we had to play Lundstrom there tonight. And I think you've seen other qualities from John Lundstrom that we just don't get from him in that number 6 position. He's got so much power behind him, Lundstrom. Like, he's great running with the ball. He can hold people off. He actually makes quite intelligent runs as well. Mm-hmm. And he was really far outside in that right-hand side. And he seemed to be linking up quite well. So yeah, Lundstrom higher up the park is something I'd like to see. Now, we're kind of struggling for options right now, but I would certainly rather a John Lundstrom playing higher and kind of making those runs than Stephen Davis. And it's not because I doubt Stephen Davis' ability. I just think you would maybe get more from him deeper in the park. So listen, it could be something going forward for us. And I think James Sands showed tonight that he is more than capable of playing in midfield for us. I thought James Sands was really good tonight. I thought the 2 of them, Lundstrom had a bit of a poor spell when he got booked. It was a bit of a needless booking. But other than that, I thought the 2 of them were quite good tonight. So, yeah, listen, encouraging signs. I think you mentioned earlier that that Gavin had mentioned this a few times, wanting to see that kind of Sands Lundstram partnership, and that's something I've wanted to see as well. And listen, there's only so many. You can't take a lot of positives out tonight, but that was certainly something I picked up on, that maybe that's something we can use going forward.
I can assume from your smirk there when Ross said that Sands had a good game. Reece, you disagree?
Oh, mate, you threw more forward passes in a game of rugby than you do, James. I remember when we first brought him in, he was getting played at centre mid, and the whole time I was slating him. I could not stand it. He was the most safe passer you've ever seen in your life. And I don't know, I don't think he's a centre mid. When he went to centre back, I was even hesitant. But I get what Ross is saying about that he's better at receiving the ball for deeper than maybe other players because he's had that experience at centre back. But centre mid for me, especially domestically when you're trying to unpick defences. That's why I agree with the Davis Lundstram thing as well. Who's a better runner, Davis or Lundstram? Lundstram all day. Who's better at picking passes for deep? Davis. So when you're sitting against two banks of five, most likely domestically, other than Celtic, then Davis can get the passes going through, whereas Lundstram is more energetic running. And especially even when you're a counter-attacking team like we would be tonight when we've not got the ball, if you've got Lundstram pressing to the front, it's going to be like Tillman at PSV away. It's going to be high up the park, putting defenders under pressure who are less comfortable on the ball than allowing them to get to the stage of midfield where you've got players who can play passes. It's their bread and butter. Do you know what I mean? They're comfortable on the ball. Defenders don't really have that luxury, so I think pressing to the front would be better. But no, Sands and Lundstram in that midfield two is the stuff of nightmares. I'm no for it. There's no goal threat. There's no long shot. There's no attacking impetus there for me. There's rarely a tackle between them that's good. Sands is better at reading the game, and Lundstram's tackling's a bit erratic. So I don't know. It wouldn't be for me, that midfield pairing.
No, that's fair enough. It's all about opinions in here, and it's your Halloween blockbusters come a wee bit early, Reese, I suppose, especially given that we're wearing orange, very thematic. But look, Reese, I'll stick with you. This is caught my eye in the chat here because there's a couple of comments, and I think you've seen them as well. So I'm quite keen to come to you on this. Round about 75-minute mark, King gets an injury. I actually didn't see this happening, so if one of you two want to film it, I'm unsure what happened basically.
I think it was a 50-50 just before it, and it looked like he struggled to get up after it. I thought he'd maybe had cramp. And then I think the plays went on and he's went down after. I think it was just a 50-50 and when we were attacking actually and the ball broke, and I think that's where he's picked up the injury, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, but I was concerned because I didn't really see much in it. That's why. But Reese, I'll come to you in this first point. Are you worried that King appears now to be injured, given that Barisic, of all players, came on at the left-sided centre half? And there's a couple of comments, as I said, which I've just picked up in here about positive vibes. I don't think Goldson's missed, and AG says Goldson is dreadful. I totally disagree with both of those comments. I'd be keen I feel like that's something I can't let go. I'll be keen to get your thoughts on the King injury and those comments about Goldson.
It looked like King rolled his ankle after that 50-50 shortly after it. And it looked to me like his left ankle. But I get what Ross was saying, because when he went down, he started stretching his right leg as though he had cramp in that. But I think when he came on, he was getting treatment in the left ankle. So it must have been the 50-50 before it. It is worrying because of the lack of depth. It will not be long until Gav's getting a game at centre back for Rangers. He's got experience playing at Ibrox, fair play to him, jump on. It's more than most. But to slate Goldson, especially the position we're in now, where you're watching a shambolic defence at times, week in, week out. The reason Goldson gets stick is because we expect a lot of him. You know Goldson's a good player, so you expect that from him. In the same way that because we paid $7.5 million for Kent, you expect performances for him more so than what you would Scott Wright that we got on a free. Maybe because he played Liverpool and Aberdeen and that exactly like that as well, respectively. But nah, for me, Goldson's head and shoulders above anybody we've got at the back. There's nobody that can play passes like him. He's better than I'd say every one of them there, and I would rely on him as a last man tackler and before I would anybody else at the back for us. And I think we slight Goldson because we expect more from him.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's very unfair. I think it's been evident how much we missed goals in a game, especially like today. I mean, I think it's harsh at times to criticise King, and I realise that he's doing amazingly well for an 18-year-old. No way could when I was 18, not a chance could I have started in a Rangers team. And that's not just because of my footballing ability, but I mean the kahunas it takes to do that. But I just think it's better having more experience in there at the centre half. Like Ross, unfortunately, the next point is around the 80-minute mark. Rangers go 3-0 down. I'll just say I actually thought this was a really poor corner, and I think that Lundstrom's lost his man here at the corner, and it's some header, but I think this is a goal that we shouldn't be losing.
Yeah, caught under the ball, Lundstrom, and as soon as you get caught under the ball, you fear the worst. You can see it when the ball comes in, you know he's caught. And what I will say, I think it was an outswinger, and I'm always more confident when the ball's outswung at a corner because I always feel it's going to take a really good header. But yeah, I think Ostergaard, you have to give him a lot of credit. He's managed to get up and get real power on it, turn his head and direct it past McGregor. I think there was a bit of discussion on this on Twitter and within our group chat about Alan McGregor at this goal. I don't think he's got a chance, to be honest. I really don't. I just think it's a great header. I think from a set piece perspective, we have to defend that better. We just have to. So, yeah, a positive for Napoli. Good goal for them. But again, another poor one for us. A set piece again. You know, that set pieces are where you'd like to feel you could level the playing field against these teams. You'd like to think if you're well organised, you can probably deal with it. But we've lost another set piece goal, and yeah, that was a tough one to take because I felt we'd done well to stay in the game in the second half, and that just sums us up right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And look, the only other point to note is around about the 88-minute marks. There's a ball in from Tavernier, and that man Tony Goals that we all love is flashed it wide. It's but we won't dwell on that. There's a couple of players that you can't say it. Tony Goals is what his name is, Reece. That's what I'm going to call him from now on, all right?
Oh, no. Getting a migraine for cringing now.
Right. There's two players in particular I want to talk about here because I feel largely they've not been talked about tonight because I felt they contributed very little. I'll come to you on this first, Reece, and the player is Ryan Kent. I think he was honking tonight. I think he was terrible. I think everything he's trying to do, I don't think he can beat a man at the moment. I think his passing short at times, and I think his tracking back is just not of a Rangers standard at the moment. I get the difference in opposition, but in terms of Napoli, but that's been his whole season so far, hasn't it, Reece?
Yeah, I don't think the way the team's performance helped him either, to be fair, but it's getting bad when, see if we hadn't paid 7.5 million for Ryan Kent, right, and we had got him in a Bosman the way we did Scott Wright, although we ended up paying money to get him in early, whatever. You wouldn't have any issues about him running his contract down and going at the end of the season. You wouldn't. Yeah. If you hadn't paid that money for him, you wouldn't be too bothered about losing him for a free. At the moment, I think Rangers fans would be happy just to renew his contract and sell him for whatever so that we actually get a fee rather than lose him for nothing, because I don't think there's a massive urge to keep him at the minute. He's not performing. He's the quickest player ever going sideways, but going forward or going back, he's just not that quick. He doesn't seem able to beat a man edgeway, and he can come across the centre of the pitch all you want, but you're not going any closer to the goal. I seen him tonight quite a few times able to bring it in for the line. So if he'd received it wide, he was able to kind of run by his man, bring it in a wee bit, and then try and play a switch or something. But every time it just wasn't coming off. Or he was playing balls into tight areas, we'd lose a 50-50 and Napoli would get the ball again. Or he would try and switch it to the likes of Tav and just concede possession again. But something's not happening for him. But it's a sad state of affairs when you've paid 7 million for somebody and you wouldn't mind seeing them going for nothing.
Yeah, it's just he's always been the outball. It's just in the Braga game, when Gerrard was the manager and he scored that goal away. That's what he reminds me of in European games. He was an outlet. You knew if you just gave him the ball, at least he was going to take it and run and challenge and give the defence and the midfield a bit of respite. As if there was somebody up front supporting him, he would, more often than not find them, but we're just not seeing that at the moment. And another guy, Ross, who's been getting rightly criticised in my eyes the last few weeks as well. And I think, like most Rangers supporters, we are being lied to in terms of he is carrying an injury, and that's our captain, James Tavernier. He was honking again tonight as well. Like there was that short back pass on the edge of the box to Davies inside the 18-yard box. I just think was criminal. You don't play passes like that. I think going forward, again, he's one thing about James Tavernier that you can always say is he's got pace. That seems to have gone out the window with the Livingston goal at the weekend, highlighting that as well. What do we do with Tav at this moment in time? Does he need dropped and time to recuperate, or, and I know we've had discussions about this in the past, are we just saying, we'll give him to the World Cup and see how it goes?
I think that's it. I think we're giving him to the World Cup, and hopefully that break at the World Cup, 4 or 5 weeks, brings him back refreshed. But I totally agree with you. He's definitely injured. He's injured. There's no way he can't cover the ground. I don't want to stray too away from this game, but you've seen it against Livingston at the weekend. He's beat one-on-one twice. He loses the first tackle, he loses the second, the boys by him, and he can't make up the ground. I've never seen that from James Tavernier. He usually makes up the ground. He sometimes maybe won't get a block in and things. It might go through his legs or something, but he'll be able to make up the ground. He can't get there. And every time I feel he's about to hit top speed, it looks like he's kind of like carrying one of his legs, like he's driving through it. He's not right. There's definitely something going on with Tavernier, because I just don't think your form can just drop that dramatically. He didn't start the season that badly. He's obviously not been at the same level that we've seen Tavernier lately, but it's you're not going to be able to sustain that level. It's absolutely ridiculous, the numbers he puts up. So he's always going to have a wee dip, but the dip he's having right now is it's unbelievable. He just doesn't look the same player at all. And that situation you're talking about there, when he plays that square pass back, he gets no power on it. Luckily enough, I think we block it and it gets cleared or whatever, and you can see him putting his hand up, but I just don't feel like he was that bothered. He was just like, oh, sorry, and it was like, what's going on here? Yeah. So yeah, he definitely needs some sort of time at the team. The problem is I don't think he can get it, because we were told when Adam Devine signed the contract or the beginning of this season that he was the stand-in, he was the backup right back. Well, I'm sorry, that's clearly not true, because he would be in the team by now. This guy deserves some minutes, especially when the guy in front of him is playing this way. That we clearly don't feel that Adam Devine is ready, which is fine. That's fine. I'm not. There's no pressure on Adam Devine here, but we should have signed someone else. We shouldn't have let Zukowski go. We should have tried to integrate him. There's decisions being made here that don't really make sense, and this is what happens when you don't have the depth. So yeah, Tavernier takes out. I just want to talk about Kent quickly as well before we move on, right? Because I agree a lot with both of with what you both said there in terms of Ryan Kent. He doesn't produce enough numbers. He looks really low in confidence. What I would say about Ryan Kent, and Reece said it, and this is why I wanted to pick up on it, because I think it's a great point. The way the team plays does not help Ryan Kent. Like under Gerrard, there was patterns of play. You understood where players had to be at certain times when Rangers were attacking. You knew when the ball went to Ryan Kent, he would have someone on the outside of them, and he'd have Kamara coming short, and that was something you could identify, and it helped him. See, now our tactic is try and get the ball through the lines and give it to Ryan Kent and hope he beats 3 men and create something for us. We don't have any patterns. There's nothing. Yeah. The guy is given the ball every time and said, right, go on, make it happen now. That's unsustainable. There's no winger in the world that could survive given the ball every time he's in possession, and you think he's going to go beat 3 men and score a worldie. It's just not going to happen. So listen, he deserves criticism 100%, as all of this team do. I'm not defending them for absolutely everything. I just think tactically we don't help him either. he's completely relied upon. And I just don't think that helps him at all. You don't see the best in him because of that. He's got no way of, understanding that once he beats a man, where's the ball going to go? Can I lay it off? Can I get it back? There's none of it. It's just, right, Ryan, on you go, beat 3 men and see if you can score for us. So, yeah, I'd like to protect him a wee bit, to be honest.
Yeah.
It seems to me it's quite contradictory that, do you remember that clip of Roy Mackay was going about, where it was like, save the tricks? Oh, no, nothing fancy, tricks off the surface.
Yeah.
But so if that's the case, and you have got a coach telling you that, why is nobody supporting him? You're literally relying on him, like, pulling off a step over, stepping inside and hitting one for 30 yards. It's not happening. And you've not got any fullback supporting him, because as soon as Barisic gives him the ball, he's standing and admiring his pass. No centre mids going short to help him out. Their strikers trying to get in the box in the hope that one of the 74th crosses is going to hit his head, and there's no support from him. So I definitely see that, but it's just a stark contrast to what we've maybe seen being put across in training.
But to come back on something, I'm not intending on spending all night talking about Ryan Kent, but seeing as you've raised it, Ross, I think there's a couple of good discussion points to be had in there with that. Do you not think that's why Ridvan was put in the team? And again, it was something that Patrick said to me in a podcast, the last podcast I was on with him, and he said he doesn't feel that Rangers are a crossing team anymore. Was Ridvan not put in that team for the kind of overlap? Because he did it a few times. I remember Kent, and he just could not find him. He could not find that out ball. Even when he was cutting inside, he could not find that pass. So to me, I don't think it's as much the tactics that he's been asked to play. I think it's his execution of those, because he just wasn't finding those passes, because you're using Ridvan as the wall. I mean, the one instance where he did play Ridvan in behind, it was arguably our best chance of the game when he flashed it across the goals for Morelos. So that would be my feeling on Kent. He's just... I don't. It's like when you're working your notice at work. That's the attitude that I feel he's given off it at the moment. That is exactly and I don't know what it is. It's just the energy that he's given off is different to the last few seasons. He just looks like he doesn't want to be here, and that's what I feel about it at the end of the day.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, to be honest. I don't think you're seeing the same level of work rate from Ryan Kent that you've got over the years. So I actually agree with you that it does look like a guy that's maybe accepted, not necessarily that he's definitely not going to be here, but he's accepted that he might not be here next year. He's maybe not decided whether he's going to sign that contract. As for the kind of execution of things, I agree as well, to be honest. Sometimes you do feel that there is an opportunity for him to play that kind of pass, and he doesn't pull it off. And maybe this comes back to the manager. Maybe if we do start to play Ridvan now, and he starts to build up that partnership with someone really positive next to him, it will help him. I mean, we've seen it was no coincidence last year that Ryan Kent was fantastic when Bassey moved to the left. Because I remember spells last year where Ryan Kent wasn't great, but when we moved Bassey to the left or some games, he was phenomenal. You think of that game, the semi-final game against Celtic at Hampden, Bassey was on the left that day. Ryan Kent was superb. I think sometimes we do forget it is a team game. And I think the thing that worries, you can come back and tell me I'm wrong here, but I think the thing that worries me about Ryan Kent and the criticism he gets is because if you compare Ryan Kent to the 3 other wingers we have in Sakala, Scott Wright and Radmil Matondo, it's night and day. It's the same as the Connor Goldson discussion that you were having earlier, and Reese was defending him, which I totally agree with as well. The level between Ryan Kent and our other wingers is huge. Yep. So if we lose him, I worry, because we definitely can't buy someone with Ryan Kent's quality with the budget we have. It's impossible. That's why I'd like to give him a contract. But of course, I understand the other side of he's not doing it. So you let him go. But I just worry, see when you do that comparison, you go, okay, well, we've lost Ryan Kent, so we'll just move Fashion Sakala out there. You're going to see a drop, a big drop. And that's the bit that worries me going forward. But in terms of Ryan Kent and the criticism, absolutely, I agree, he deserves criticism. I just think sometimes we are a bit harsh, but that's part of being a fan, innit? That's the way it is.
No, that's it. Do you know what? We expect the best. We expect effort, and as Rangers supporters, we should never ever apologise for that. I'm going to have one final point, and I'm going to ask this to the both of you because I can see it. It's going off in our chat. I've seen it all over Twitter, and I've seen it in the YouTube chat as well. I'll come with you on this first, Reece. It's something I noted down as well in the first half, but it was the work rate from Napoli was very evident. As boring as Rob McLean is in commentary, and as fantastic as Kevin Thompson is in the commentary, they both said it a couple of times. Kevin Thompson, especially when he was talking about the Napoli's front players, like Di Lorenzo was playing up front for them, was coming back. Not
Raspadori.
Yeah, and was coming back in defence. I mean, you noticed that the front three at times were sitting very deep in their half, sprinting back to win balls just to turn it over. Kim as well. It was like life or death situation where he was letting the ball run out from Morelos. Like, is that something that you pay for in terms of not the technical ability, but with these guys that you're also paying for that mentality where it's almost life or death situations, if you know what I mean, in terms of, winning the ball back? Or is that, or have Rangers basically just chucked it at times? And is it because Napoli are so intense, it makes us look worse? Or what's your thoughts on it? I know I've not really worded that in the best way, but do you kind of get what I'm getting at?
Yeah, if I'll start off with it if you want, but I don't think it's something you pay for. We certainly got that for Calvin Bassey, and we arguably at times got it for Joe Aribo, and we didn't pay a fortune for them. I know what you mean in terms of maybe with better players you get that, but I don't think we would get that for Ronaldo, and we would certainly pay a pretty penny for him. I think it's very much situational. With Napoli, it's very much the case of their fans expect it, their fans demand it, they know how much it is to their fans. It's honestly like a way of life for them, the same way it could be said it is for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that demand that's constantly put on them. And I think it comes with winning. I genuinely think it comes with winning. If you're winning games, and like Napoli, they're sitting top of the group and they know we're onto something here. We can top this group, we can go through in a good seed and comfortably sail through this. Maybe got opportunities in the coming weeks to get a rest. You're going to be trying that bit harder. You're confident, you're happy that your level's above other teams. And like we might see in the last 16 of the Betfred Cup every year, when we rotate and we take the foot off the gas a bit, you can just because you have. And if you've got a 2-goal cushion already, chances are the other team's chucking it. But for me, with Rangers, a lot with this Champions League group stage is we've went in expecting to get beat, right? Maybe no by the margins we have. We went in expecting to get beat. So it's a bit like thinking you're going to fail an exam and going, I'll just no bother studying for it. So that maybe 25% chance you've got becomes zero because you've just not put the work in. And I think that's how we've been scudded on numerous occasions this year because we've went in expecting to get beat, showing a bit too much respect and just gone, well, we're getting beat anyway. So difference is it if it's 2-1 or 4-0.
Yeah. Look, again, I think you've raised a fair few interesting points there. Ross, this is the last point. Do you agree with Reece in terms of the, well, I don't know, were you maybe saying that we shouldn't expect that level of intensity, Reece, from our players at times?
No, I think we will demand it as well. Mm-hmm. I think when you're in a full, well, it used to be Sao Paulo, but the full Maradona Stadium, who are all baying at that, they're thriving off being 2-0 up and how well the team's playing, and the longest ever unbeaten on it might as well be said. That it is some situation and circumstance to be in where you will work hard because these people love us. We're playing well. We're a good team. We could make history here. And I think we seen it last season in Europe with us. I honestly don't think we were as good technically as half the teams we come up against. But the work rate, the enthusiasm, the desire was all there. And I think it just comes off the back of confidence. And when you've got none and you decide, we're going to beat anyway, it's the opposite and it turns into a scudding.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's a key point that you've hit on there is that the work rate and the desire was there last season. It's not this season. Ross, is it unreasonable for us to expect to put the same sort of tenacious work rate that Napoli had going out tonight, and I'm applying that across the board. That's not just in Europe. See, against a Livingston, for me, Rangers should have the same intensity against Livingston that Napoli had against us tonight.
Yeah, to a level, I agree with you. Yeah, I think the problem that we have at the moment, and it's probably perfect actually we played Napoli tonight because it's a really good example. I think the difference between those two sides right now is belief. Now, those Napoli players believe in everything that they do. They believe that if they work their absolute arse off and they win that ball back, they can score from it. They believe that they can cut through a team. That's Napoli's kind of game plan. They do sit quite deep and they are quite violent in their press. And when they get it, they explode and they go for it. You've seen it tonight, and you've seen it against the Ibrox. That's the way they play. So I think you're right that we should be expecting our team to play the same way, but I think that's the reason we're not seeing it at the moment. I don't think these players believe in the manager. That's just the way it looks to me. It doesn't look like they believe. Maybe believing in the manager is a wee bit harsh, but a lot of people probably say I've said the right thing there. But what I probably mean is they don't believe in the way they're playing. They don't believe that they're really going to get results from the way that they're playing. You know, tonight when we were winning the ball, I didn't feel like that real emphasis on the team to move forward and try and create something with it. I just didn't feel like they had any belief that they would be able to keep the ball long enough to do anything. You think of these great away performances, and I know it was a lower level, right? But you could also argue the team was at a lower level when we played in these competitions. But you think when we went away to like Benfica and Porto and things like that, really tough, obviously Dortmund last year, you know, that team went in with belief.
Yeah.
No, they weren't naive. They didn't think it was going to be, you know, they'd be able to, you know, we'll just play our stuff and we'll get a result here. It doesn't matter the opposition. Of course, we didn't go in that way, but it was, listen, if we play to the best of our ability, we can get something here. We can do something. That was a team with belief, real belief in this manager. Maybe a belief still, they were still maybe riding on what Steven Gerrard and Michael Beale had built. And that when we played in Europe, I think Michael Beale was asked about it a few times that we are here and we're going to go for it. We're not in Europe to take a tanking. We're going to try and go for it. We're not going to open up every single game, but we believe that we can cause these teams trouble. And I think that's the big difference right now in the team, mate. I just don't think that team believes. I don't think they, even domestically, which is worrying in itself that they don't feel they can get a result against Livingston at home. But that's it. I don't feel that. Intensity is a good word for it. I don't feel it. Even when we won go down at the weekend, I don't feel that that's a team going, right, we've got 90 minutes to get back in this game. It's, oh, well, we'll get there eventually. You know, that's the wrong attitude. And rightly, the Rangers fans are questioning everything. So, listen, I've kind of went on a wee bit there. But in terms of your question, like, can we expect the same? Of course we can. Of course we can. When you support any football club, you just want your players to give everything they can when they play for you. And so, of course, we can expect the same intensity, but I don't think we're going to get that with this manager, unfortunately. I just think the players have just lost complete belief in the way they're playing, and it'll need a shake-up. If the manager stays to the World Cup and after, it'll need a shake-up. He'll need to change things, or it'll be a long season for us.
Yeah, nailed that. Like, there's no word to that I disagree with. Nailed it.
Well, there we go. That saves me the bother of coming in and asking you your thoughts on Gio then, Reece. So we'll leave it there because I totally agree with what you said there as well, Ross, for what it's worth. So look, thanks to everybody that's been joining us, and thanks to everybody for putting your comments in tonight as well. It's been really good to sort of interacting with the wider This Is Ibrox community tonight, especially on another disappointing performance and another disappointing result in Europe. I think, was it yourself, Reece, that said that we just need the 5 goals against Ajax to have any chance of going through into the Europa League?
I think it was Shog, but I say them 5 Barcelona goals might do the trick.
Well, you never know.
Aye, we'll take that. We'll take that one. Barcy can do us a favour, eh?
Calvin with a big Bugera style wink coming off the park at Ibrox in the last game.
big agent Bassey for Ajax, eh? Right. But look, thanks to everybody for joining us again. Thanks for yet another talking about another defeat, Ross, and thanks again for you joining, Reese. It's always a pleasure. Thanks everybody, and we'll have a show on Friday with Adam. Sort of looking forward to the Aberdeen game, and then we will have the Sunday bulletin at 8 o'clock coming out. Just for everybody who's new and doesn't know that we do those shows. But take care, everybody, and we'll see you on Friday.